It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast, independent property insights for smarter Australian buyers and investors just like you. Yes, we've got the numbers, we've got the trends and the stories that are shaping Aussie real estate. It has been another busy week, don't know about you. Plenty of property searches, disappointments and frustrations probably. Welcome to the nightmare of finding a place to call home in 2026. It is a Friday though, the end of our working week. It is March the 13th. James Taylor and Liza Minnelli both celebrating a birthday, 78 and 80 years old respectively. If you're celebrating, many happy returns. And I see that it was on this day the proposal for what would become the World Wide Web was submitted, laying the foundations for the internet as we know it. And that happened on this day back in 1989. In 2014 on this day, the Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was lost, and that mystery continues. And from mystery to WA property market, Perth's real estate has been one of the standout stories in Australia over the past few years. We know it because we've been talking about it. Prices have surged, demand has stayed strong. The population growth, we're going to talk about this in just a moment, is now adding even more pressure to an already tight market. New data from PropTrack shows that home values in Perth jumped nearly 20% over the past year alone and have almost doubled since 2021. So lots to talk about. Let's take you to Perth and catch up with Travis Coleman, the head of WA for Belle Property. And good morning to you, Travis. Welcome back to the Real Estate Breakfast. You were telling me just off air, you're a little bit of a surfer. You like getting into that ocean.
Oh, gosh, that's right. I'm a mad keen surfer over here, like a lot of proud West Australians are. We've got a beautiful coastline to explore, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, as you say, beautiful coastline, fantastic surfing. Unfortunately, you would never catch me in the ocean, particularly in WA, just because of these sharks that are roaming around looking for something to eat.
There sure are a few more men in grey suits, as we call them. I like to play a numbers game, and as long as there's quite a few surfers out a particular break, we try and work together to make sure that we're safe and have a great time in the ocean.
Well, stay safe is probably the only thing I can say to you with regard to that. Now, as I say, Perth has become Australia's strongest performing capital city property market over the past 5 years. Just to throw up another stat here, home values have climbed around 98% since 2021. That is huge, isn't it?
I know it's been an amazing few years over here in Western Australia, where Perth has really gone from one of the weakest capital city markets after the mining downturn we experienced to arguably the strongest performer in Australia. Looking at what's driven that, it's probably a combination of strong population growth, really tight housing supply, and relative affordability when compared to the rest of the country.
Good point, because one of the biggest drivers behind Perth's property growth is that population. And this, of course, is after years of population losses. How quickly we forget that you were in an area that was losing a lot of people following the mining boom. The trend is now reversed and the housing demand is back, well and truly.
Absolutely. You know, since that mining downturn, you're right, everyone was leaving Western Australia, but now it's totally reversed. And look, interstate migration, overseas migration, mainly due to the jobs in resources and infrastructure that we've got. The catch-22 of that has been that supply hasn't kept up. Building slowed through that period as well, and construction costs have increased through the roof over that time, plus which has had an adverse effect on our planning pipeline. So there's simply not enough homes for the people arriving at the moment.
How big's your team there in WA, and what are a couple of things you've sort of noticed for 2026 with your team? And yes, lack of supply is obviously a big talking point, but how's the year been progressing?
Well, over here we've got a team of 25 officers from Broome all the way down to Albany in Western Australia. If you know Western Australia, it's a big place, so we've got a lot of land to cover. Our start to 2026 has been really strong. Of course, we're seeing record sale prices occurring, but what we're actually seeing is that low stock supply. So at one point in January, I think we got down to 1,800 properties in total for sale at a period of time for 1 week, which was absolutely ridiculous. What we're seeing on the ground is just home opens when a property comes listed for sale, just getting inundated with buyers. Our average days on market is less than a week. It's not uncommon to have a property on the market for 3 to 4 days with several offers on the property. So it's highly competitive for the buyer market at all-time low stock levels, making it obviously great for a real estate agent if you're selling a property, but unfortunately you can only sell a property once. So having that abundance of supply is something that we would really like to see come back into the marketplace.
We talk about the people moving in. Many buyers are young migrants or first home buyers. They're looking for homes under the $850,000 mark, becoming increasingly difficult. No doubt that's something that you're having to deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. The first-time buyers, the migrant families coming over here because they've got secure employment, not only for now, but for the future in resources and infrastructure. What we're seeing there is they are in competition with investors, interstate investors coming into the marketplace as well. So enormous pressure on trying to find a suitable home for less than $850,000. So what we have seen is extraordinary growth in regional centres throughout Western Australia as those migrant population looking to relocate to those regional areas to gain affordability and, as you say, a house instead of a small unit.
And of course now we've got those extra costs that might be kicking in as a result of our friend Donald Trump and this war in Iran. Nobody's going to get out of this without having to pay more.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? When you see the lines at fuel stations and the like, already the cost of living had gone through the roof in the last couple of years. So putting added pressures to that household budget, which no doubt will have pressure on, purchasing ability of some of the buyers out there.
I've got a friend of mine, we had dinner at his place last weekend and he said, come in and have a look at this. Now, he's a hoarder. He likes to keep all of his shelves stocked because it's like a bunker in his house. And I go in and where there was the side room, which was kind of like a closet, he's completely filled it up with food. And I said, this is crazy stuff. And he said, oh, how smart am I going to be, though? You just wait and see.
I think we remember back to the previous COVID pandemic when people were panic buying toilet paper and things. I think it was a bit of a panic buying at its best.
That is for sure. We are talking with Travis. He is in Perth. We'll come back in just a moment with more from WA.
Eager to expand your property expertise? Enhance your real estate know-how with us.
The vast majority of housing stock or established housing stock that we have here in Perth is 4x2 homes. And what we need desperately is more 1 and 2 bedroom, either apartments or dwellings. And so because our stock is very much weighted towards the 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom property, we're now seeing a significant level of under-occupation with, a single person rolling around in a 3 or 4 bedroom property because that's the majority of the stock that we have available.
Every morning from 6 a.m. across Australia, we deliver you the latest property news, commentary and predictions from Perth to Cairns and from Melbourne to Brisbane, 7 days a week.
And here is a fun fact from the 1990s. A typical house in Sydney could be bought for around $200,000. At the time, many commentators warned that the market was overheated after a strong run in the late 1980s 1980s. In other words, they were saying, oh no, that's a lot of money. You could get burnt. But no, that wasn't the case at all. It is a Real Estate Friday working into the weekend. We are in Perth talking to Travis Coleman. He is the head of WA for Belle Property. If we could go back in that time tunnel and secure some of those Sydney homes, for $200,000, which you got to ask the question, if that was the price in Sydney, the price in Perth must have been considerably cheaper.
That is amazing statistic, isn't it? $200,000. My God, that'd probably get you the letterbox these days. Over in Perth for a similar property at that particular time, I can tell you, I know people who have bought properties for $50,000 in Cottesloe, which is a premium suburb over here, now probably worth circa $3-4 million. It's absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at the moment with some of the clauses in these contracts. Are people negotiating a little harder, or is it still pretty hard to get some of those terms that you want in contracts? Because, as you said at the top, they're only lasting a week, so there's probably not a lot of room for negotiation.
No, there's not. And what we're actually seeing is highly competitive pricing. Of course, people are given multiple chances to increase their offer, but what we're seeing there is a limited number of special conditions being put on contracts. A lot of the heavy lifting or due diligence is falling on the shoulders of the buyers to make sure their offer, when they put forward, is as clean as possible so it can be as attractive as possible to the owners. Because when faced in a situation of multiple offers being presented to the owner, you want to make sure yours is the easiest and cleanest to deal with, and it's obviously an attractive price as well. Not always does the highest price get the property. Sometimes it can be the cleanest offer. And by that, I'm meaning not having erroneous building inspections or pest inspections or long settlements. So I would always suggest having a chat to the selling agent to see what would work for the vendor, to see if your offer could accommodate.
Around FOMO, is that almost back? Where do you place FOMO at the moment?
FOMO is right up there. My gosh, I can tell you just anecdotally from the last weekend, we opened a property for half an hour and had 67 groups of people through a property. That's groups of people, so circa 150 individuals coming through. A lot of people missing out and perhaps overlooking a property that might not be their forever dream home just to purchase the home and get into a particular suburb or an area because they've been looking so long. It's not uncommon to hear from a buyer that they've missed out on several properties already. And I can feel that buyer fatigue setting in.
All right, well, we'll leave you there. Enjoy the upcoming weekend. Enjoy the surfing. Go well. Make sure you got that cluster around you with your surfing buddies. And thanks for coming back on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Pleasure. As I always say, West is best. Always over to Western Australia and enjoy our beautiful environment and coastline.
Listen to expert perspectives with exclusive real estate conversations and supercharge your knowledge base with us.
But the land tax payable there, it's been more of a change in the threshold. So it's brought a lot more properties that perhaps in the past weren't subject to land tax. So certainly in the apartment market, that threshold has dropped from, I think, 300,000 down to 50,000. So that brings a hell of a lot of apartments that previously weren't subject to land tax into that threshold.
And how have you found the market so far in 2026 in your neck of the woods?
It's been a bit inconsistent, Craig. Certainly we noticed through November and December last year, the market had been building through spring, but when it came to sort of November, December, when the talk of inflation starting to grow and become a little bit sticky, and the RBA started talking a lot more about potential interest rate rises than further reductions, then there seemed to be a bit of hesitation. And certainly the first home buyers in the sub $950,000 mark have been reasonably active, and that's driven a lot by the federal government first home buyer scheme, so that's helped that sector of the market.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.